Yeah, welcome back. On Christmas Day this year, it's also going to coincide with Hanukkah, the beginning of Hanukkah. And it kind of should bring back to our attention what's going on in Gaza and the fact that there are still hostages being held there. And I know that Donald Trump has told them there's going to be hell to pay if this isn't straightened up at the time he takes office. We pray that has some impact on what's happening. But in the meantime, we need to remember the people that are still being held hostage there. I've got Liz Hirsh Naftali with us this morning, and she has got a book out called Saving Abigail. Of course, one of the real-life accounts of a family's heroic journey through the tragedies of that October 7th Hamas massacre. And Liz, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for giving us a few minutes. I mean, I would hope that this hasn't left people's mind as we enter this holiday season, but as the days go by, I fear that it has.
Yes. Well, listen, it's been 440 days since Hamas invaded and murdered and killed and raped and then kidnapped innocent people. And, with the news cycle, time flies and people, get busy with other things. But I'm here and I wrote the book, Saving Abigail, to really document and make it very clear, especially for Americans, what happened on October 7th.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Abigail for a moment. Okay. How is she doing? She was held hostage for 51 days with a little 3-year-old. I can't imagine how terrified she must have been.
Yes, I mean, we have children, people who are listening have little kids. And on October 7th, she and her brother and sister, 6 and 9, all saw Hamas terrorists come into their community and murder their parents, their mother and their father. And, Abigail was in her father's arms when he was killed. And the 6 and 9-year-old actually thought that she had been killed too. And they ran home and locked themselves in a closet for 14 hours. But Abigail actually survived and crawled out from her father's body and covered in his blood and went and got help. And when she was then in somebody's home, safe, we thought, she was then taken away with this woman and her 3 kids as a hostage for 51 days. And when you ask that, this child literally saw all that, and then she was a hostage in a dark room with no food, no water, no hygiene, and no parents for 51 days. But the beauty and the resilience of this child and children is that when she was released, thank God, over a year ago now, she was back with her family, not her parents and not her home, because that was destroyed. But she was able to be loved, and she has, her sister and her brother and her cousins, and they're all siblings now. And they live with my niece who survived the massacre of October 7th. And so while you ask how she is, if you saw her, you'd say she's this beautiful, lovely child with lots of energy. But to think what she endured is just beyond what we as people can actually comprehend.
I can't imagine that. And I think of the people who are still being held hostage. We don't even know if they're alive at this point, if they've been tortured. You hear Biden for so long, he has said, two-state solution and all this nonsense that we know will not work. Now you have Trump, like Mark said, saying there will be hell to pay if you do not release these hostages. How likely do you think it is that we'll be able to get them out soon?
Well, first I'll say there's 100 people, and we know that 7 of them are American. And yes, we do know that many were killed on October 7th and taken as hostages, but we also know that many were taken and are alive, and others were killed and have died under these dire circumstances. They're all in deep tunnels with no food and no air and nothing. And, right now, one of the things that we have done as hostage families, especially the Americans, is to make sure that we do keep this bipartisan, because what we are trying to do is make sure that this doesn't become politicized. It's a humanitarian crisis. And so we do now have the Biden administration that has been unsuccessful for a year to get another deal. And now we have the incoming Trump administration, and they are doing everything in collaboration to bring home these hostages. And that has changed the dynamics. And here we are at a moment where we believe that we are much closer and close than we have been in a year to releasing these people. And you ask about how many are alive. I assume that there are dozens And these are people, and to think what they have been enduring for 440 days
right.
of like not having anything, not seeing their family.
Liz, for the families that are still there, assume your niece is still in Israel?
My niece is in Israel, and she is, she was released with these women and children over a year ago.
So, but what is life like now? I mean, I would imagine if the PTSD alone must be horrible to live with, given how this went down. Is she still back in the community in her home where she was when this happened?
No, so her community no one lives there. No one is living along the border of Gaza. Very few have returned because it's still unsafe and because the damage was so incredible, and the killing and these communities have to be fixed and they have to be rebuilt, but it's also not safe there yet. And so they don't live in that area. They live in the middle of the country, and people are being displaced, and many people are just living day to day trying to just make it through.
Wow. Well, thank goodness that your great niece is safe. Where can people buy the book, Saving Abigail? I assume Amazon? It's available now, right?
Yeah, it is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and it's a book. It's a hardcover, a softcover. You can hear it audio. You can read it on Kindle. But the thing that I really remind people is, like, we're in this season of joy and lights and hope. And, Hanukkah and Christmas, as you said, they are on the same day this year. And what I'm trying to remind people is, like, this is this miracle time, and we need a miracle. These people who are alive still, they cannot survive. And they need to come out, and they need to come out soon. And so I am so grateful that we have the Democrats and now the incoming Trump administration and saying they must come out. And for me, this book that people can read and really understand what happened on October 7th and what happened through the eyes of a 3-year-old child and what it meant to be a hostage, but also what it meant for so many of us hostage families to do this work with the government and with leaders in Congress on both sides. But it's really this message of hope. And for me, and I thank you for having me, is like, how do we get these people home? And this book talks about what we need to all be doing, which is praying and working and elevating their stories, because it has been so long. And so I really just thank you so that people in your community who are listening will understand that this is a dire humanitarian crisis.
Yeah.
But Saving Abigail, the book, is a reminder of what we can all do to make a difference in this world.
Well said. Liz Hirsh Naftali, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a as peaceful a holiday as possible.
Thank you, and God bless, and may we all see a miracle this holiday.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for giving us some time this morning. Great to get her on here. Again, if you're interested, the book is called Saving Abigail, and it is available. If you search it there on Amazon, you can find it.